This is Oft Off Topic, a show where two men with the attention spans of a squirrel try and fail to stay on topic with today's subject. Where will their oral meanderings take us? Well, stick around and listen, because today's Oft Off Topic is... OJ Simpson, that famous football player / murderer, allegedly, that everybody knows and some people love. That's our subject for the day. Nate, what do you know about OJ Simpson?
Allegedly. Yeah, I guess we have to say allegedly, even though it's... Yeah, everyone knows. Yeah, everyone knows. Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna go help find the real killers. No, you won't.
He also wrote a book questioning whether or not he did it. Or,
like
we'll get into that shortly.
Yeah, okay, well, we'll get to it right now. But I didn't know OJ Simpson as a football player because I don't care about football. My first experience with OJ Simpson was Naked Gun, and then my second interaction with OJ Simpson, the interaction being just being where he existed, was White Bronco. So,
but Al Cowlings.
Yep.
I believe Al Cowlings was the one driving the Bronco, and OJ was in the backseat with a gun against his head and a phone in the other hand, if I recall from the courtroom sketches and stuff like that.
Right, and it's like, and nowadays they would just gun them down.
You're right. Well, it depends on how famous you are. OJ was pretty famous back in the day.
Yeah. I think it was also the 90s. They would have gunned them down. You're right. I'll back on that. Yeah. Back in the 90s, the cops did have a like.
If you're a black man in the 90s, you're either OJ or you're what's his butt that got beat, Rodney King.
Right. Yeah. Very few between. So it was. You're right. Now or then there would have been like 1,000 cops following him. Yeah. Kind of like the cops.
Hold up. He's one of the good ones.
Like the cops in a Dark Knight with all went down the tunnels get banged. All the cops are following O.J. Simpson.
All right. Are you ready to learn about the life and times of one Orenthal Simpson?
Let's do it.
All right. July 9th, 1947. Eunice Simpson spreads her goalposts wide, and out her end zone rushes a football-sized Orenthal Julius Simpson. He comes out of the womb fully decked out in pads and a helmet, and he spikes the placenta and does a touchdown dance when he comes out. In the corner, a baby Pete Carroll chews gum and nods approvingly. OJ's mother was an orderly at a psychiatric ward, and his father was Jimmy Lee Simpson, a custodian at the Federal Reserve, and possibly an out and proud drag queen who died of AIDS in 1986 or 1985, depending on who you asked.
Possibly?
I say possibly a drag queen because there's only a couple of mentions of him being a drag queen, and they're all from like the recent years, like 2016 and on. One of them is a book written by George Carpozzi Jr., basically has an account from a drag queen in San Francisco who claims, quote, Mama Simpson, as he was known to me, used to hang around a hotel where I lived and was frequently dressed in drag. Everyone knew he was OJ's dad. That's evidence one. Also, apparently, Jeffrey Toobin wrote a book that claimed that he was a drag queen. Yes, that same Jeffrey Toobin who was caught with his pants down on a Zoom meeting at a CNN. You remember that, Nate? Jeffrey Toobin? His name got turned into a verb for a while.
Yeah, you said the guy that was at CNN. He went off they were at a Skype meeting. He went off to go take care of himself. And everyone's like, oh my God, we're still here, that guy.
Yeah, I think he actually loaded up the thing and he had no pants on, was going to town on himself, or something along those lines.
During the meeting? The one I know of, he had gotten up, maybe he had no pants on at that point, but he got up, went over the couch while his camera still on to start going, and all the people were going,
huh. Maybe that's what it was.
On one hand, okay, I get it. You weren't trying to show everybody what was going on, but come on, man.
Yeah, when asked exactly what happens, Toobin said, I'd rather not go into the grisly details. The only thing I'll say about it is I didn't know other people were on the Zoom call, and they were watching, and this was not an intentional act on my part.
But that being said, what do you give it? 9 out of 10?
Yeah. The other evidence, too, is a 2016 documentary called OJ Made in America. In that documentary, one of OJ Simpson's childhood friends, Calvin, said, one day we went over to his dad's house and we knocked on the door. When his dad opened the door, he was in a bathrobe, which is not a crime. But then he kind of opened the door more, and there was a guy in the back, and he was in a bathrobe too, and it was obvious that he was gay. So, and also keep in mind, O.J. Simpson's dad, abandoned him at the age of 4, so this is a 4-year-old's quotations being like, hey, yeah, sure, he was gay. So, I don't know. Like I said, all these accusations came out long after O.J.'s dad was dead and this and that, and it seemed like it was mainly to sell books, so,
I mean, it doesn't really matter in the long run, but just for the sake of clarity, I wouldn't trust a 4-year-old's recollection, especially after you're talking for years. Everyone's like, "Oh yeah, he's a drag queen," and then "Oh yeah, I remember one interaction I had with him. Maybe he knocked on the door. He was standing there, and he was I mean, let's be happy he stopped at like I saw a guy in a bathroom behind him versus like I saw
he gave me a come hither look.
Yeah, right. Like I saw he opened the door, some guy was like balls deep behind him.
Right.
I mean, there's a little bit of a leeway there between like
we thought he was bending over to pick up his shoes by the door, but it turns out
another guy happens to be there versus like full raw doggy in front of some kids.
One reason this kind of matters is because people like to try to tie this back into some of the homophobic stuff OJ said during the murder case and whatever. And they're like, oh, well, this shows you right here why he's such a troubled, horrible man and this and that. So, But
the gays, even back then,
the gays.
Even back then, like, why did she die? The gays.
Yep. Also, his obituary says he died of cancer, not AIDS. But also, that's kind of one of those things back in the day. If he did die of AIDS, you probably didn't want people to know because, Anyways, so there we go. His dad, gay? Maybe? Question mark. As for OJ, him and his family grew up in the poor part of San Francisco and was fashionable with poor children at the time. OJ developed a case of the rickets at the age of 2 and that gave him bowed legs. His mother whipped him up some homemade...
As was fashionable at the time.
As was fashionable at the time. Hey, if you're a kid back then, you're poor. You either got the rickets or you got polio. And if you didn't have one of those, all the other poor kids made fun of you.
Look at that kid over there. He's never had rickets. Push him down.
Isn't that funny? Jimmy and the Iron Lung. Yeah.
Yeah, we all laugh at Jimmy and the Iron Lung, but that motherfucker was an asshole. He was the worst bully of all of them. He would just run over people's hands. He's like, whoops. His friends hold down the jocks, like all of his crippled friends holding jocks down while he slowly like rolls over them, like the end of Aladdin. He's like rolling down the hill. He's got to quickly find the window where it gets crushed. Anyway, sorry.
Yep, that was one of the leading causes of deaths for street urchins back in the day, being run over by bullies and iron lungs.
That scourge of iron lungs. Like rolling down the hill, rolling down with a biker gang, like in a perfect V.
Everybody's panicking, grabbing their children, running inside their houses and stuff. Oh no! The Iron Lung gang is coming. Yeah. People like hiding behind the windows, the Iron Lung just slowly rolls by with the head turning and staring at them.
Oh, dear God.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, the Iron Lungs, I'm not exactly advocating for killing people with Iron Lungs. I don't even know if everybody's in Iron Lung, but like, what's the point? I mean, there's one guy, one guy recently died. He was 70-something. He spent his entire life in Iron Lung. He was a lawyer. I'm like, a lawyer for what? Like, at what point... I know you could be a lawyer and do paperwork, but again, the only thing he had access to was his face. So
he was an expert at teleconferencing, basically, would be my guess.
But he was 76 and been a lawyer most of his life. He wasn't a recent thing. So I don't know.
It was, he communicated by a pigeon, I guess.
I guess.
On them, send them out.
I mean, I am by no means advocating putting people in iron lungs out of their misery, but
they say you're on trial for like murdering 30 people in iron lungs with a pillow. You're just you just walked up and just pushed the pillow over their face. And
we have this audio. If you had noticed the audio, I never once advocated for putting people out of their misery. Who's living in iron lung? Hey, I may have left it hanging, but that I never.
You'll notice I said that. I don't advocate for other people to murder people in iron lungs. I never said about myself.
But.
And in case you wonder what an iron lung is too, I believe it's because your muscles are so weak you can't breathe anymore, like move your diaphragm and breathe. So that actual whole lung just basically works like a giant bellows to pump air in and out of you.
Yeah, totally. I mean, as a life-saving device, I think it's a miracle. But again, it should be like a temporary measure, not a permanent one. But again, I mean, whatever. People have loved ones. If I had a loved one, like my daughter was an iron lung, I'd probably be like, no, let her live. So I mean, I'm not
chasing away the horde of people outside with pillows, being like, "We're here for an angel of death for your daughter." And you're like, "No." We wheel her in the backyard twice a week. She has fun.
So yeah, right. So yeah, just abstractly with me having no say over it, I'd be like, "No, put them all in the misery." But I mean, someone goes, "Well, what if your kid?" I'm a hypocrite. There you go.
But thankfully, your kids aren't in iron lungs. All they have is the rickets. And by the way, in case you're wondering what rickets is, it's a softening of the bones due to a vitamin D deficiency.
I always wonder what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, because I know...
Because you always hear about the rickets and stuff like that. It's like, oh, so Bodie, it looked like he had the rickets when he was a kid. Yeah.
Yep. There's a funeral home called Ricketts Funeral Home, and I always laugh at that when I pass by.
Ha! Old Rickety Cricket running his
Ricky Cricket. Is that
Yep.
Jiminy's like long lost brother?
Yes. Fast forward to the age or to 1960, and at the age of 13, OJ Simpson forms what he calls a gentleman's club known as the Persian Warriors. While OJ calls it a gentleman's club, everyone else calls it a street gang. Yes, OJ was a hoodlum, picking fights, stealing stuff, throwing rocks at cars, that kind of jerkwad stuff. This would eventually land him in juvenile detention at the age of 15, where he would spend some time there and kind of be in and out of juvie. His future wife, Margaret Whitley, would even refer to him during this time as a quote-unquote terrible person. OJ,
Well, I no doubt he was a terrible person even after that time, but like,
might have been all that. Might have been the vitamin D deficiency.
it's very true.
Maybe that's what it is. Turns you into a violent murderer.
But I mean, let's be real. I mean, from what you said, it's kind of cute. You know, like, oh, he went through. I mean, I'm sure he was a slight little mess society, but let's take a quick step back and look at, I don't know, the '90s in LA. It's just like, oh, he had a gentleman's club. Like, oh yeah, what are they called? The Crips.
Oh, that's a bunch of crippled people? That's neat. I bet you he helps them out in day-to-day activities.
Right.
It's like a South Park callback there.
Yes, exactly. I
Yep.
went there too.
Timmy and Jimmy. So, in and out of juvie and jail was probably going to be OJ's destiny at this point, and that's pretty much what everybody believed. OJ's family, friends, and even OJ himself was like, well, I'm obviously going to be a lifelong criminal. Then one day he got out of juvie and he got to spend the day with his sports idol, Willie Mays. And Willie Mays basically spent the day hanging around him, giving him that good old tried and true speech of, do sports, not crime.
Come on.
Remember when you used to have school assemblies and, some local C-list athlete would show up and be like, hey, I used to be a backup Seahawk. Do sports, not crime.
I have to expect him to go, yeah, hey, don't tell anybody about this.
Ha! Don't tell anybody about that time you saw me in a bathrobe with the other guy.
Or I'll kill your family.
Ha!
You want to play football?
Well, Willie Mays' little speeches actually worked, and OJ decided to get into sports and start playing high school sports. OJ went on to be a standout high school football star, and colleges were dazzled by his performances. They're like, hey, this guy could be the next big thing. And the colleges started lining up being like, you should come play for whoa, wait a minute, your grades aren't really up to snuff. And also, you're in juvie a lot, weren't you? Maybe we don't want you representing our school. So OJ basically had to go a little piddly fart community college and play football there for a couple of years to get his grades up and prove that, he's no longer the thug he once was. Because, he was suspended from high school 5 times and went to juvie. That's kind of a red flag for...
Oh, yeah.
Red flag for a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, no one really was be like, oh, let me snack this guy up. Oh, he did what now?
Yep. Yeah, some dude just a few years ago tanked in the NFL draft because he uploaded a video of him hitting a bong. People were like, can't have a bong hitter smoker on our team.
It's so dumb.
Yeah. Yeah, he dropped from the first round down to the bottom of the second round, lost millions of dollars in signing bonuses because of it. Good times. Well, not for him, but...
When was it?
This was 2018 or something like that.
Oh, yeah, it's still too early. I think now, probably better off now, but now it's not that.
Not really.
You think?
It's against the NFL rules to smoke weed. It's a suspension if they catch you doing it. And you don't want to pay a guy $10 million and have him suspended all season because he couldn't stop smoking weed. That's what happened with Ricky Williams. Ricky Williams was the New Orleans Saints made him one of the highest paid running backs of all time, and he immediately just said, "I'd rather smoke pot instead," and just quit and took money with him. Yep. So there you go. Sometimes it's not good to finance a pothead, I guess.
I guess, but also I don't know. That's just that one guy. Anyway.
Anywho, so after going to San Francisco City College for a while, getting his grades up and getting back on track, OJ finally had a college come calling, and in 1967, the University of Southern California decided to snap him up. Yes, this is the same USC school that started Oft Off Topic alumni Pete Carroll's career, too. Pete Carroll, OJ Simpson, they meet together in this once again.
Will their sins never be forgiven?
Ha! Yes. Look at what USC has brought upon us. Between these two and Will Ferrell, I mean, God, they're just bringing about the fucking end of times.
The apocalypse.
Now that he's in college as a USC running back, OJ would dominate college football, leading USC to a national championship in 1967, and he would also earn the Heisman Trophy in 1968. Heisman Trophy, for those of you who don't know, is essentially the trophy for best college player that year. 1967-68, OJ would lead college football in rushing years, and he would also during this time be a very accomplished track athlete in college as well, and even competed in the 1968 Summer Games. This is a bit of note, too, because this is the summer games that Martin Luther King Jr. was trying to get all the black people to boycott the games due to racism. When he asked OJ to boycott the games, OJ responded, "I'm not black, I'm OJ."
Oh, fuck off.
Apparently, that right there, though, is what made him, like, people say that's what made him good in the eyes of the racists and all the white people. That's what made him, quote-unquote, one of the good ones.
Of course it did.
Yes.
Of course it did.
And if you want an example, too, my dad was one of the most racist people you'll ever meet, and he loved OJ. He was like, they need to leave that man alone. He also loved Bill Cosby, too, so that should tell you something.
Oh, wow. Like, even before, like, everything just came to light.
Yep. And also afterwards, too. He was sitting there screaming at the TV like, you can't accuse that old man of doing something like that. Look at him. He's a sweet old man. He would never do these things. Brr, brr, brr. He's one of the good ones. My dad also said almost the exact same thing about, starts with an M. Rupert Murdoch.
Yep.
Yeah, my dad also said Rupert Murdoch was a kindly old man who never did anything wrong. So there's a lesson there. Some people believe that old people can do no harm. As we know, that is not true.
After a certain age, it all doesn't matter anymore.
It doesn't?
Not anymore.
Okay. Oh, I thought you were actually being serious. Like, hey,
oh, no, God, no. That is not off topic, Brandon.
That's something we say off air to each other, privately. The men's 4x100 meter relay race that OJ participated in also set the world record that year, too. So that's something kind of neat. During his time at USC, OJ would do a little bit of acting, including an uncredited role on the TV series Dragnet and also appearing on the first episode of Medical Center on CBS. This little bit of acting would be kind of important because in the '69 NFL draft, the Buffalo Bills took OJ first overall, and OJ was thrilled and immediately told the Bills, hey, pay me, I'm going to be worth it, and demanded the largest contract in professional sports history. $650,000 or over 5 years, or the equivalent of $4.1 million nowadays money, which, by today's standards, that's not a whole lot for
that is not a lot.
That is like nothing. Well, the Bills hated the idea of paying him that much money, and they told him to saw it off. We are not paying you that much. To which OJ said, okay, that's fine. I'll just go be an actor. I've got an acting resume. And the Bills said, damn, you called our bluff. So they decided to sign him, and turns out it was a wise move, as over the next 9 seasons as a Buffalo Bill, OJ would dominate the running back scene and become the second leading all-time rusher by yards during his career. He was also the first player to rush for more than 2,000 yards in a season, beating out fellow football player and actor Jim Brown. I think Jim Brown was actually the original football player / actor. He was also a running back who was in The Dirty Dozen, I think.
Yeah, he's been in a few things. I mean, of course,
he even was in movies up until the 90s, I think.
Yeah, he was in Mars Attacks.
Oh yeah, he was, wasn't he?
Yep. That's really all I know one from.
OJ wouldn't spend his entire career as a Buffalo Bill. He would actually, as a token gesture, spend the last 2 years of his career in San Francisco playing for the city that he grew up in. He, by that time he was old and broken up with bad knees, so he didn't really contribute much, but the fans still liked it. They're like, hey, that's our boy.
Yeah, our boy.
He actually still holds a couple of NFL records, like fastest player to gain 1,000 rushing yards in a season, and the fastest player to gain 2,000 rushing yards in a season, and most rushing yards per game in a season, with 143 rushing yards per game. And in case you're wondering, 100 yards per game is considered really good for a running back, so he was doing really good at that time.
Oh, yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. He honestly, he was actually one of the best running backs of all time. He was legitimately a good football player. However, he did only play in one playoff game and never won a Super Bowl because, the Buffalo Bills sucked back then. Which kind of a bummer when you're known as one of the greatest players of all time, yet you couldn't win a championship.
I mean, you can't carry it. I mean, they were like, oh, he carries a team, and does he? He doesn't really.
I mean, yeah, especially in football. I mean, some sports like basketball, maybe you can kind of, or soccer, maybe. So OJ's football career would end in 1979, but lucky for him, he had already begun his acting career by this time. What he's most famous for was his 1975 Hertz rent-a-car ad, where he ran through an airport in a suit to the car rental kiosk to rent a car. Damn exciting stuff, Nate. Do you remember those commercials? The Hertz rent-a-car? No? I remember them because they used to play them on those top 10 greatest commercials of all times kind of things, and it was literally OJ being like, oh no, I'm late to rent a car, and then he just runs through the airport. He's jumping over luggage and doing spin tackles around pillars and stuff. I don't know. It's pretty lame, but I guess at the time it might have been cool.
Oh, absolutely. At the time, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's oh, look at this. It's such an action-packed commercial. Because also, before that, I think most commercials are literally just a dude sitting on a stool reading a teleprompter to you.
Reading the whole teleprompter. It's
whole teleprompter.
Stop reading,
Sony.
Jackass.
So
by Sony. Model sunset.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Just keep rolling. Volume up, volume down. Power button. So as for bigger stuff beyond commercials, because he did a bunch of commercials, he was also a spokesman for Chevy and GM and all that kind of stuff. For bigger budget stuff, he would appear in the 1977 TV miniseries Roots. And he would also be in the 1974 motion pictures The Klansman and The Towering Inferno. Towering Inferno and Roots being very popular movies at the time, or shows / I also watched Roots too, had to watch it in school. Main thing I remember that from was at one point they gave the slave an option, we're going to cut off your foot or cut off your dinky. And he optioned to have his foot cut off instead. Did you ever see Roots?
I mean, I haven't. Okay.
It was a movie about slavery and slavery.
Well, I remember. I know it was about Geordie LaForge was that, but
oh yeah, he was, wasn't he? Yeah, it was Kunta Kinte / Toby, and I don't know. It's exactly what you think it was.
Yeah,
honestly, if you read the description, if you read the description, you'll be like, okay, I can kind of figure out how this movie goes.
Yeah,
which you can do that for a lot of movies, to be honest. OJ Simpson was big into acting, even to the point where he formed his own studio, Orenthal Productions, which made some made-for-TV movies in the late 70s and early 80s. Those movies included Goldie and the Boxer, Goldie and the Boxer Go to Hollywood, Detour to Terror, Cocaine and Blue Eyes. And all those movies had OJ in them. I kind of like the title Cocaine and Blue Eyes. That's kind of a cool movie title.
Cocaine and Blue Eyes.
Actually, sounds kind of like a Johnny Cash song or something.
He said he sings it all soulfully. Cocaine and Blue Eyes.
Or really manic because he's on cocaine. Depends on what era of Johnny Cash we're in.
True.
Yep.
That's very true.
Also, the movie Detour to Terror kind of has a fun description. It's a homicidal dune buggy trio terrorizes a busload of Las Vegas-bound tourists with the intent to kidnap one of them. So, basically, what we were talking about earlier, but instead of iron lungs, it's dune buggies, I guess.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, but I just like dune buggy trio. Kind of makes me think of speed buggy gone bad, I guess. Also in the mid-70s, OJ met both his future wife, Nicole Brown, and also made friends with two other eventual famous people, the Menendez brothers, Eric and Lyle Menendez.
Oh, Jesus.
Ha ha. Yep. In case you don't know, Eric and Lyle Menendez were convicted in, was it late 80s, early 90s of murdering their parents for inheritance money?
I want to say the 90s.
Yeah, I think it's very early 90s. Man, main thing I remember that from was the SNL sketch they did about it. So weird associations I have.
Right.
In 1978, OJ hosted SNL, and he was only the second athlete to do so at the time. Fran Tarkenton being the first. Fran Tarkenton being an odd pick because, I don't know, he didn't seem like a very personable person. Very generic and boring white.
And apparently, from what I heard, I don't know how accurate it is, so take it with a grain of salt, but apparently Lorne Michaels, the head guy of SNL, was friends with OJ, which is why they fired Norm Macdonald, because Norm Macdonald was he was constantly ragging on OJ, and he's
There's
like...
somebody higher up than Lorne Michaels that did that.
I think anybody was higher up than Lorne Michaels. I thought he was like...
Oh, yeah. Brandon Tartikoff is way higher than Lorne Michaels. Lorne Michaels just does SNL. He's not like...
No, I know, just SNL. I'm not speaking for anything else. Just
okay.
like that. I guess someone from on high can come to him, but from what my understanding is, of course, it's just like Lorne Michaels runs that place like basically a dictator.
We'll find out real quick.
Yeah,
Don Ohlmeyer was the guy who gave the order to have him fired. NBC West Coast Division President Don Ohlmeyer, who happened to be an extremely close friend of Simpson.
There you go. Okay, so it wasn't Lorne Michaels, this other guy.
Nope, it was not Lorne Michaels.
Because I knew it was someone in charge, but I just used to recognize, I thought it was Lorne Michaels. So
just automatically assumed it was notorious scumbag Lorne Michaels. How dare you?
Right? I mean, it's not like, no, not poor innocent Lorne Michaels.
Right. How dare you assume the dude who did all sorts of scumbag things did another scumbag?
I mean,
that's very.
How did you forget about all the puppies he saved by killing them? Here,
he saved that pup.
He went around town, picking up all those poor lost puppies and selling them to the wet market. Wait, the wet market's what now?
Yeah. Like, oh, that's where they just sell wet puppies. No, that's where they drown them, it turns out.
Yeah, they only sold damn puppies over there, though.
Also around this time, according to Arnold Schwarzenegger, James Cameron actually considered O.J. Simpson to play the role of the Terminator, but decided against it because of O.J.'s reputation as a nice guy, or quote-unquote, one of the good ones.
Right?
Yeah.
That does sound familiar.
It does sound familiar. I've heard this before, but the only person that backs this one up to is Arnold Schwarzenegger. I've never actually seen James Cameron say that, so not saying Arnold Schwarzenegger's a liar, but,
I mean,
I'm also saying he could have misremembered stuff, too.
I have nothing against the Terminator, but I'm also not going to take everything it says. I'll take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of these celebrities, as they're getting really old nowadays, they're starting to tell some kind of tall stories that makes you go, did that happen? Especially like Hulk Hogan's kind of going off on some weird stuff nowadays.
Yeah. Oh, man. Speaking of Hulk Hogan, there's a documentary coming out I want to see. It's produced by Kevin Nash. like what happened to just who killed the WCW or something like that. I mean, the WCW wasn't the last time I cared. You know, it's been a long time since I gave you a slight
Eric
shit.
Bischoff and Vince Russo that killed it at WCW. There, I saved you.
Oh,
Well, Hulk Hogan too, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I assume that this is like, I guess, from the wrestler's point of view, I'm guessing.
The whole thing was a huge clusterfuck. It's basically the inmates were running the asylum at that place.
Oh, for real? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see that. I really did love a WCW for quite a while. And then, like I said before, when I moved out there, I was really upset. Like, I'm not going to be able to, my uncle didn't have cable. So I was like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to watch my WCW. And I tried to watch it once. It was like all scrambled because, didn't get cable. And so I kind of remember seeing Goldberg for a second, it's just, and then,
or some other bald dude.
Yeah, exactly. And fast forward about a month, I realized I hadn't even attempted to try to see if I can, watch it. And I realized, wait, I don't care anymore. Instead, I moved on.
I was going to say, you thought you were a wrestling addict, but you were just a casual wrestler user, it turns out.
Yep.
No withdrawals or nothing. You're just like, well, that's easy to quit. Meanwhile, there's plenty of people in wrestling rehab right now being like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I sucked a dick for wrestling. What have you done for it?
Like, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. Like, that really sucked. But, yeah, I'm good.
1985, OJ and Nicole Brown get married. And it becomes Nicole Brown Simpson, as she'd be known from then on, apparently. Because whenever I think Nicole Brown, I just automatically fill in the Simpson at the end. I don't know. Even though
of course.
If you didn't do that.
Yeah, especially nowadays. Would you please not add the name of the person who killed her at the end of that?
Right.
I guess. It reminds me, took me to a brief Reddit story that I read, whatever. And the guy was talking about like how he had a bunch of family who died, and he would keep them going to his grave, like they died in a car accident or something. And he was going to put flowers on the grave, but he always noticed there was someone next to him, like they shared a similar next plot over, and there was no one ever came to it. There was never flowers, so he started buying flowers for that unknown gravestone. And he did this for like months. And finally, he's like, "Who is this person?" And come to find out, it was someone who murdered his wife and kids. So
I was about to say, somebody buying flowers for John the baby raper. What the fuck?
And he's like, "Damn it!" So he wanted to kind of like even the karma scale out, and he started delivering flowers to the wife he murdered and the kids. And while he was there, though, some other woman was there. So, why you putting flowers on my aunt's grave? And he's just like, was very kind of like, this happened. And they both found it kind of funny, and they ended up getting married. So, yeah.
And now every anniversary, they go pee on that man's grave that murdered her.
Right.
It's how they bond together.
We do this as a family.
I thought that's what you're going to say at first. Instead of buying flowers for the other grave, he just started whizzing on it.
Oh.
Yeah. 1987, OJ has a cameo in the movie Back to the Beach, starring 1960s crooner Frankie Avalon and original Musketeer and Annette Funicello. Don't recognize those names? Ask your grandparents. They will probably know.
Yeah, I do not recognize those names.
Yeah, Frankie Avalon, I got to listen to a lot of his music because I was forced into like 50s and 60s stuff back in the day. It's teeny bop crooner music. And Annette Funicello was a Musketeer who went on to like do some acting. And basically the only reason they ever hired those two in movies was so, your parents could be like, hey, I know that name.
Johnny?
Yeah.
There's a guy, the name I recognize.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, they're making their comeback. Kids these days don't know what they're missing with the original Musketeers.
Yeah, the only older stuff I used to be forced to watch, and I emphasize that, forced to watch, because I don't know why I think I did that willingly, was fucking Lawrence Welk.
Oh.
Do you ever watch Lawrence Welk?
No, because he was on CBS, and I didn't get CBS.
Yeah, I was forced to watch Lawrence Welk.
Or maybe it's PBS. It was one of the two, but yeah, I never got to watch that. I know of Lawrence Welk, though. The polka master himself.
Oh, my God. And well, it's that, and also... This sounds really chill, but my stepfather, there used to be this guy on there who danced. You know what? Never mind. Let's just say I would stop there. Let's just say, yeah.
Did he throw peanuts at the TV when this man was dancing? It's like dance for
No. Let's just say he was the only black person on the show, and my British stepfather was racist, and you probably know this going. And he had a name for him, and it was let's say, a certain slur on a stick. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, that's not cool. I mean, I didn't like it, but then again, he was big and scary, so I wouldn't exactly go and say, it's like, hey, don't say that. But yeah, it's just, Every time I think of Lawrence Welk, I think of that. I'm like, man, that's fucked up.
Just gotta hate with those memories you don't want get imprinted with certain things.
Right. Like, why do you hate Lawrence Welk so bad? Well, to be honest, it's not actually about Lawrence Welk.
Yeah. It's about this black man he had on the show, but it's not really about that black man either as a person.
No, I must have to stress. It is not about him.
Yeah, that's one of those things where when you're explaining it, you need to phrase it very carefully.
Yeah.
Put the modifiers before what you're about to say.
It's serious. Okay, I need to lead into this. It's gonna take me a couple minutes to get there.
Right.
So it's kind of like...
There's a story that goes with this, because if I just jump straight into the subject, or the ending. All right. 1988, 1991, and 1994 sees OJ starring alongside Leslie Nielsen in the Naked Gun film trilogy. Series that holds a soft spot in my heart. Also, apparently, there's a remake coming out soon starring Liam Neeson. And it's going to be written by the guy who did the new Chip and Dale movie, produced by Seth MacFarlane. So that might be kind of cool.
That might be cool.
Yeah.
I think because when he took over that, Leslie Nielsen took over that role, from my understanding, he was still more, I'm not saying he didn't do any comedy, but he was more known for his dramatic stuff.
Yes, Airplane was the first comedy I think he ever did, and before that it was like, it was all like high drama.
Yeah,
the thing I remember remind him for was back in the 60s, he was on Disney's Swamp Fox as the Swamp Fox, which was back in like the Spanish-American War or something like that back in, a famous character from back then. Had a catchy theme song, Swamp Fox, tail in his hat. Nobody knows where the Swamp Fox at. Swamp Fox, hiding in the trees. I don't know. Anyways, that's what I got to watch in my childhood. Yeah. I hear your stunned silence on the other end.
I can't. I'm trying to remember Swamp. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a really short series. It was just kind of one of those Disney Sunday matinee kind of things, man.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, it was live action too, not animated, so we gave less craps about it back then.
Live action?
Yeah, there's no singing, dancing mouse and duck on this. Shenanigans, I say.
Kill them all.
And that's going to do it for the first half on our episode about OJ Simpson. Tune in next week for the second half when we discuss the A-Team knockoff starring OJ we never got, OJ's arrest and murder trial, Kato Kaelin's acting career, OJ's death, and we talk about where we think OJ's trial ranks among the trials of the century. All this and more on the next episode of Oft Off Topic. This is where the ending jingle goes. This is where the ending jingle goes. I don't know if we need one. I don't know if we'll get one. But if we do, then here is where it goes.